Hi everyone, good evening. So, thank you very much for coming to join us tonight for a very unusual panel. Actually, I think this is the first time we've done or one should never say an absolute, but I think this is the first time we've done an actual panel discussion about food. So I was really excited about it and very excited that some of our leading chefs in Bangkok agreed to join us. I'm Gwen Robinson. I'm the president of the FCCT and editor-at-large of the Nikkei Asian Review. Now, I'd just like to turn to our excellent panel and our topic for tonight, the rise of Thai cuisine. Is innovation and celebrity chef culture killing the country's culinary traditions? And with us, thank you. We'll take all opinions on board, and you can ask our panel yourself directly any questions you want afterwards. So just to run through very quickly, on my far right is Jarrett Risley, co-owner of Soul Food Mahanakorn and
Hi guys.
the very popular Apia and Pepina restaurants in Bangkok. And next to him is Kun Chef Jutamas Som Tiante, executive chef and co-owner of Karma Kamet Diner and Karma Kamet Conveyance, which she told me has just moved into new premises. So big plug for the Karma Kamet new premises. And next to her is a feature of the Bangkok restaurant scene, Bo Songvisava, who with her husband, Dylan Jones, are co-owners and chefs at the Michelin-starred Bo Lan. And Dylan is just here to lend moral support or heckle. And then next to Bo is Oliver Irvin, managing editor of BK magazine, which I know for a lot of us is a Bible to food in Bangkok and great restaurants. So we look forward to hearing from him. And last but very not least is Sujira Aum Pongmorn, who is chef de cuisine and co-owner of Sawam, and just won a Michelin star for her fine dining restaurant. So without further ado, I'd just like to kick off with the first question, which I hope each panellist will talk maybe 5 to 10 minutes, and then we'll have a bit of a discussion. So the main question and the issue, as I know you all know, is the subject of our title. Is celebrity chef culture and demand for culinary innovation in contemporary Thai food undermining traditional cuisine and its principles? So I think we'll start with Chef Som and then move to Jared.
Yeah, okay. So in this world of social media, how can we know that we are good enough without believing in these judgments of people who look so important? We've seen so much, and of course, we're never good enough. But I think there's a big but here. This is a free country. So just cook your food, whatever style you want. Just plate your food, ever style you want. To me, I look at this culinary timeline history period, same as art history timeline period. It was like from Impressionism to Post-Impressionism onto Expressionism, right? So at the end, we are just part of history, right? So knowing our past could help us to create a better future. As long as we know what we are doing, we put our heart and ourselves into it. Maybe one day, we could bring something new into a timeline of culinary period. So to answer to this question more directly, all these cooking rules, all these plating formats, just for the sake of getting the reward. We only narrow down thoughts in our heads. And for me, that's not being creative and productive at all. And when that's not being creative and not being productive, I don't know what's left there. So this is my answer to that. Yeah.
Right. Thank you very much for that opening statement.
I
Jarrett.
I agree with you. I come from a writing background, so I think I sort of look at food in a slightly different way than people who come from a kitchen background. And honestly, I think when I first came to Thailand 11 years ago, food was about food, okay? There was no sort of standard format. People ate things because they were delicious. Then you had the emergence of the modern Thai restaurant, yeah? A package. I think the arrival of Michelin and San Pellegrino has corrupted the nature of Thai cooking in many ways. And I just want to explain to you why I think that I feel this way.
I'm glad someone said out loud, finally.
If you want to make the San Pellegrino 50 best restaurants list, you have to do several things in a very predictable way. You have to serve a tasting menu. You have to serve at least 3 proteins. You have to hire a publicist. You have to lobby. You have to travel to several different countries and cook your food in all those different countries so that the people on the panels in those different countries can vote for you. And this is not food. This is basically political campaigning. It's lobbying. And so if you want to talk about food and not restaurants, this has absolutely nothing to do with food. This is not the criteria for delicious food. It's the criteria for winning a Michelin star or being on a list sponsored by a water brand. And by the way, Michelin is also sponsored by a water brand.
Right.
So you have San Pellegrino and you have Evian, okay? Now, choose one or serve both. That's my answer.
Is that it?
I think so, yeah.
We'll come back into this, Jarrett.
Yeah. But
At the same time, I think it's important to realize that it has helped raise some standards.
Well, that's the other thing. I mean, it certainly has, like, you know, sort of, people talk about Bangkok becoming a world culinary destination. I think it always was that. It's just the nature
that the world didn't
It's just the
realize
nature of it
that.
has changed, right? I mean, I think when people used to think about Bangkok, they thought about this sort of romantic notion of people grilling chickens on the street and papaya salads and noodle vendors. And we all know that street food is in steady decline. Now, you know, when people think about the restaurant scenes the restaurant scene in Bangkok, because of its preeminence as a leader in the world's 50 best list and so on and so forth, you're thinking about fancy restaurants. But honestly, what percentage of people in this city can eat in these restaurants? 2%? 3% of people in Bangkok can go eat a Michelin meal or eat in a Asia Top 50 restaurant? So for me, it's not really indicative of what people are, their habits as diners. It's good that it's sort of illuminated Bangkok as a place that has really nice restaurants, but I think Thai food is a lot more than that. And so, yeah, I don't necessarily think that it's been a positive agent of change.
Thanks. Well, we'll come back to that. Chef Bo,
Well, to agree
as
with
a Michelin winner,
To agree with him, I don't think the water should come in bottles, especially the pre-label bottles. Anyway, that's my environmental things.
Yeah.
And I also agree with him, probably only 2% can fit into that Michelin places
Sure.
or best 50 places because you can't book.
or afford in some cases.
Or you can't afford it.
Oh, okay.
You can get a reservation for that. Food change over times, and we can't deny that.
No.
But we can direct how we want it to be changed, yeah?
Right.
Yeah. So partly innovative, creative is good for the culinary scene for sure. It depends how much they know about their roots. Before they turn Thai food into molecular cuisines, into a modern Thai cuisines, how well they know about it. The people who succeed in doing it in Europe, you got, I'm really bad at names. The Spanish one.
A bully?
El Bulli. What is the chef name?
Adria?
Yes, he knows his Spanish foods really well, and he. I'm so glad that he's here. Yeah, that's why it's work. Norma, what is the chef name again?
Rene Redzepi?
See, it's work because he know his root, and he not even come from that. He's half. Yeah.
Yeah. I loved his food when he cooked here. I thought that was really good. Everyone else hated it.
Thank you. So like, if you know your roots properly and you want to flip it, you want to,
Thanks, Kunal.
how to call it, disorganize it? Not.
Deconstruction.
Deconstruction it. See, I'm so glad people's here. And you want it to deconstruct it, you can do it properly. But then, if you're not quite sure how to pound the curry or cook it properly, then you try to deconstruct it. I think that is when the problems arise.
That's very important though. Very important.
But
Talking
I think,
to the microphone.
yeah, worse than the celebrity chef and innovative chef, creative chef, is industrialized processed food that invade in Thai culture.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
But that's not the subject. But
That all for now. Exactly. Move on,
Right.
please.
Right.
Can I add something into
Yes.
this? A lot of time when people talk about French food or whatever, like classical, traditional food, and people always say that it's dead. I always think that, no, it's not dead. It's dead because you cannot do it the way it should be. You don't practice it enough, right? So when you do it, it's kind of like cheating, and then you say it's dead. So yeah, like you need to know your root before you turn into something new.
Right.
I agree exactly like what she said. Right.
I think it should also be said that this debate is going on in various cultures, including also in China, in parts of China, where,
Sure.
you know, about the bastardization or the mutation of traditional food and how young people aren't learning to cook from grandma anymore. But anyway, Oliver, you might have, you're speaking from the editor's perspective.
Okay.
And
yes.
maybe you could throw some light on what you're getting from readers, because I know BK Magazine reviews are very popular and widely read.
Yes, and I always also say, as someone who runs their own restaurant awards, I mean, I would concur with everything that has been said already, particularly about water. It's a frighteningly influential thing in the restaurant scene all over the world. And I think a lot of tonight's discussion, you could probably take the word Thai out of this question, and you could have this conversation without it. But to stick up for some of the restaurants that do win the awards, including Bo, consistently next to me, the restaurants which you see in, whether it's in Top Tables or Asia's 50 Best or Michelin, they'll tend to do one of three things. One is to go to excessive lengths for their produce. One is to dig into the heritage and the culture of a cuisine. And then the other one is the only one which is in the question tonight, which is to innovate, to change, or to reinvent something. So the first two of those things, absolutely the opposite of what we're saying tonight. You know, of course, that doesn't kill culinary traditions. I think the restaurants which most people around the world know as Thai right now are ones which are in fact supporting Thai culinary traditions. And on the subject of innovation, well, it's a cliche, but to know where you're going, you have to know where you've been. So the restaurants which are going to succeed at being innovative are the ones who are doing it from a grounding of traditional culinary skills and of great technique. turning a green curry into liquid nitrogen ice cream is not going to work unless the grounding of that liquid nitrogen ice cream green curry tastes great to begin with.
Sure.
The problem with all that, though, is that when you identify those things, then people know what they need to do to get onto the lists. And so people say these things, we're innovating, we're going to greater lengths to our produce, whatever else it may be, without actually doing it. And that's something completely different. That's marketing.
Yeah.
Would you say that in BK?
Would I say what?
Like-
Would you say that in BK? Would you write that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, please do, so
Yeah.
we can tell the difference.
Oliver, can I just say one thing? Like, I might have come off extremely sort of aggressive against the criteria of the award-based systems that are sponsored by water, but I don't want to take away from people that have Michelin stars or have made that list, because it's incredibly difficult to do, and that's really important as well. Like, these people work really, really hard, but I just don't like I like the players, I just don't like the game.
I mean, if we stick with just, without going into the rest of any awards list, just with Thai restaurants, I think the Thai restaurants which are recognized around the world right now, they are the ones that are doing things correctly.
Deserve it. Sure.
So the ones that are getting the recognition, it's you're completely 100% right about lobbying and flying panelists in and treating them and keeping seats in your restaurant spare just in case this guy says he's going to be in town. All of that happens and then some. However, the Thai restaurants which are currently being recognized around the world are the ones which I think are supporting Thai culinary traditions.
Sure. I agree.
Right. Thanks. We can come back to you. We'd like to hear maybe a bit more later about, impact of social media as well. But anyway, lastly, this is your turn, Chef.
As I listen, all of you guys, I think Chef Bo and Chef Som, they have some good points. If you want to make like Thai food innovative, you have to know the original one or the basic to making of each dish of each Thai food, and you have to know what the main ingredient is, what you want to present, what you want to like communicate with the guests when they come, and at the same time I agree with Mr. Oliver about like some chefs now they concentrate about modern cooking technique. It's not only the traditional cooking technique, but now they adapt modern that they know very well and the basic of cooking Thai cuisine combined together and make them wow or present. But at the same time, they should to keep the original flavor as much as should be and as much as possible. They should keep it. Yeah, that's.
Sure.
So I think you touched on a good point, which is you're saying to innovate, you have to know the basics.
Yes.
So I think the point about this celebrity chef culture is that perhaps are young chefs getting the wrong message that, you want to get noticed, you want to get a review, you want people to talk about you. So does that mean that you skip over basics? And that's the point about, is it kind of destroying culinary traditions where a young chef might work in a kitchen for years under an older chef or learn from their superiors? These days, they maybe go to cooking school for a year and then just get in there and innovate, right? Do trendy things.
Yes.
For me,
Sorry.
what
If you want to do something, don't call the original name, please, because you can destroy the Thai food.
This is Chef Fai of the is Waldorf Astoria? No.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you want to do something, I know you want to create something, please don't call original name. If you do you do tom yam goong, little bit soup inside, not gonna be like drink. If I want to do something, create something, I'm not gonna call the original name. I call something else. Please don't
Sure.
Right, thanks for that. Yeah. So, is the name as important? I mean, is this a good point?
No,
Every chef they have their own creation, their own future. Or sometimes mix and match can be very good, but don't call the original name.
Right.
no, she just suggests that like if you
Thank
want
you.
to do something with a tom yum, just like it's a tom yum inspired blah and blah and blah,
Yeah.
rather than tom yum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tom yum can be tom yum gai, tom yum kung, something, but need to be with water, but not be liquid nitrogen. If you want to do some liquid nitrogen, you need to call something else.
I
Ice
think-
cream, herb, something like that. And you're not gonna call tom yum kung. You're not gonna serve tom yum kung with potato mash.
Right.
So you cannot call tom yum kung.
Well, how do you others feel about? Is the name that important?
I think the criteria for innovation should be like, is this silly thing that I put on a plate better than the original thing? You know, like if you're taking something like tom yum goong and you freeze it and whip it and foam it and put a tweel on it,
Yeah, but
is
don't
it
call-
better? Is it better than tom yum goong? And if it's not, you should just
No,
give
don't
up.
call it. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that that's really the criteria. When you're trying to innovate and serve modernist food, that's fine. You can do that if you want. But I think every modernist, I don't cook modern food, so I'm speaking from
So for me, what's
not
strange here?
experience. Is it better than the original thing?
Sorry. For me, like, what is so strange is that at the end of the day, you know, you do whatever you like. But for me, what is so strange is that falling into this, drowning into this, you know, cooking the same rule, plating the same rule, just for the sake of feeling that we belong to something. We could be categorized into some categories just for the sake of the reward. I think that's strange. So, I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, you cook Thai food and you practice it and whatever. Just put your heart in what you're doing, right? But just for the sake of that, you belong to something. That's strange nowadays.
Right. So back to my question, though, which is that you all run restaurants apart from Oliver, and so you're working with young chefs. I mean, do you want to know that they know how to make the pastes and make coconut milk themselves and like do all the fundamentals of Thai cuisine, or, you know, or are you happy for them to? Whoa, we
We try to be discreet here, as you can see.
Both passing
I
around
think
a
this
bottle of
is
rosé.
driving people to drink here. Yeah, go on. You had some thoughts, Bo?
We do have fresh coconut cream and fresh pal paste in Bolan. To link to like what they have been saying, the hyper local type of ingredients that is have to be ticked on the list, as Oliver suggests. Apart from having a good PR, hyper locals, you use ingredient that nobody can get it, and it's indigenous to Thailand. You have to call people in the hill tribe and send it to you by curry, and blah and blah.
Yeah.
But the problem is, they don't know how to use it properly. Because they never eat it the way they have eaten for centuries. The chef never use it in the way those people who have been like having access to that type of herbs, vegetables, or other things, and then use it in the way in their everyday life. So they will never understand how the taste profile should fit to each other things that be on the plate. And that is scary because you just put it for the sake of putting it in. It's just like basically an orchid on a plate in Thai food, like in the 80s. Sorry. And I have tried with the Thai allies. Not enough influence here, obviously. Yeah, but it's like that with the indigenous produce. You get such an interesting produce, and I have a conversation with an NGO that I respect so much. She called Pike from BioThai or Mulaniti Shivaviti, if you know them. She once asked me during, I think she probably asked me at 2 o'clock in the mornings when we all like, when I'm tipsy and drunk and not sober yet. And she's like, Bo, I'm so glad that so many people have asked for indigenous products so that we can sustain our food securities and biodiversities of what we have in this country. It's so cool, yeah, to have that all different like varieties of everything in Thailand that we have. But then, if this trend stops, what happened to the people who grow it? And plus, you didn't use it properly, so people do not like it. If you do it properly, people will just like go search for this particular dish, not dish, the vegetables. I'm gonna find these vegetables because it's so freaking yummy. I'm not that drunk yet. I haven't swear. Like, you know, like, and then the communities can still grow that vegetables, and that communities and that livelihood of the people in that area still be able to sustain and survive and last. And then the culinary wisdom and knowledge attached to that greens is still sustained as well.
Yeah.
Sure.
But then I don't think we did that enough as a chef in general.
No.
Right.
I'm not sure I answered your question because I didn't know.
It's good. I mean,
And did you have thoughts on training of younger chefs? I mean, do you think?
Well, the chef who with us, they obviously learn the hard way. Like we train them full on. But then, you know, this is really, Jared, you can probably refresh me for sure if I can refer to anyone. You know, the one who just graduated from the school, in and out of the country, come back, open the restaurant straight away and think they know what they're doing with Thai food. Like that, people need to be educated. So you can find another word for that because educate is,
I think education
they've been
is fine.
educated already.
Yeah.
I guess like nowadays, like plating format, that what matters. You don't really know about, people don't really care about so much about like ingredients. It's just like what I said, like it's
Can
all
you
like,
talk into the microphone?
it's all like plating formats. It's not the ingredients itself. Like Bo said, like this is from where and that, how we eat it. It's like everything is like the visual.
Well, so you're saying that people care more about how it looks?
Yeah. So, but at the end of the day, we have to believe that appearance, Instagram and everything is not everything, right? So instead of studying for ingredients nowadays, it's all the plating formats, I think.
What, you mean that it's being taught at schools, culinary schools,
No,
or
it's
by
like
restaurants?
it's like people are
think it
following
is.
people, but not in the
Negative
not from
space.
the root of the knowledge. It's just like the visual, right?
Right.
Right.
So that raises the issue of social media, the impact of Instagram. You know, like you have all probably watched people in restaurants who are more interested in taking pictures of what's on their plate than eating it or thinking about it. So I wonder what you feel. Actually, a lot of stuff has been. I've noted a lot of comments in particularly New York restaurant culture that chefs are now creating dishes specifically to be photogenic, and they don't want to cook things that don't look good on the plate, like ugly vegetable or ugly food, or, you know, and things are being, it's not just about plating, it's about like knowing that you're going to get a big hit on Instagram, right?
Yeah.
Does that affect food?
I unfortunately, yes, I think so. But I think I want to reverse that. I really don't think it's the chef's fault. I don't think it's the restaurateur's fault. It's what the customers want.
Right.
People want to take silly photos of stupid food. Yeah, they do. We're just satisfying your urge, okay? Like, it's not our fault.
Say that respectfully.
No, but I mean, did you see those gold chicken wings that they were serving in Las Vegas? Did anyone see that? You get like gold all over your face. Anyway, I think people think that there's a tendency for chefs to think about the presentation of the dish in advance of how the dish tastes. However, I think that really that is, to be fair, mostly to satisfy an audience that wants to take a picture. And we just have to sort of accommodate. Because ultimately in hospitality, that's what we do. We just try to accommodate what people want to do.
How about you, Chef Alm? Your food is extremely photogenic as well.
How can I say? It's like my food now is like they post on. How can I say? It's like they post on Instagram, and at the same time, I think the food now we can share the world, and when we can share to the people. It's not like we want to show it up. Like it's like we proud of ourselves, but we just want to show our experience, what we see, and our cooking, what we cooking, and it's like it's spread to the other people, and they can learn from Instagram or something like that. That's what I think.
So thank you. How about the editor, Oliver? How much is food, the look of food pictures influence what you might run?
I mean, I can't say that the look of a food picture is going to influence which restaurants we're going to choose to cover, but it just comes back to that question of marketing. And if a restaurant has a dish that's going to look great on Instagram, that dish itself is going to become as much of a celebrity as the chef who cooked it, if not more so, Maybe we'll cover a restaurant 2, 3, 4 times a year in our magazine. The right dish is going to be Instagrammed and tagged thousands upon thousands upon thousands of times and shared all around the world. So, as Jarrett said, I mean, you can't necessarily blame the restaurants for serving customers that wish to have these amazing, beautiful food pictures in their feed. Does it make better food? I don't know. But also, I want to come back to like the restaurants which right now are kind of holding the candle for Thai food around the world. I don't think that most of those restaurants are the ones, in fact, that are doing that. So
You don't think they're the ones
that are doing that. So that exists, and it's part of the food culture, but it's not the thing which is representing like Thai food culture around the world right now.
Well, imagine you're cooking green curry at home and try to make it Instagrammable. Like really, you can't. The two things doesn't go together. If you want good green curry, it's not gonna be.
It's not very green, first of all.
Unless you
True.
blend them.
Unless you blend it and put some, whatever.
Go on.
I did tell my staff who played my food at Bolan, and our food is super traditional. Oh, I should not use that word. Like, we essentially Thai. Dylan gonna tell me off later on. Like, it's Thai food. You have to mix it. You have to cook the meat in the curry. You have to toss the salad properly. And when you toss the salad properly, it's really hard to make it Instagrammable.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's
Yeah,
fair.
and I tell my chef, if it not, do not serve it.
If it's not what? Instagrammable?
Yeah, do not serve it. So you have
No,
to
if
make
it's not
it
good.
rustic. You have to make it like the leaf is just falling down. The flower is falling down. We don't use twister. Did you know that we win the awards in Paris? That we are what is the names of the prize? I'm sorry. Twister-free restaurants. Can you imagine that?
Twitter
free.
Twitter.
Like Twister.
Tweezer.
Tweezer.
She's going down the rabbit hole.
The
Tweezers
thing
are
that the chef got in the apron this day.
What's tweezers got
all
to
kinds of weird stuff.
We win the award in Paris. The world. I'm really sorry. It's entree. What is it? World Restaurant Award. It's not as popular as Best 50 yet, but it will. And then we win this prize, and because no one used tweezer, because food should not be served with tweezer.
Yeah.
Food should be served with your hand, and
It
you can
is.
touch it, and you can see whether the leaf is too soggy to serve, and if it's too soggy, change a new one. The tweezer can't tell you that, unless it's the tongue that come from the dissertation of some guys in this country. You stick it, and the tongue can tell you whether it's too salty, too sour, and is it really Thai? you know about it, but you see. Anyway, we can plate it properly. We can adore, we can admire our potter, the one who do pottery, potter? Pottery?
A pottery.
Potter.
Pottery.
Yeah,
Potter.
you can adore the
Oh.
the artist who do
Right.
the potter, the pottery.
Yes.
It's called a potter, yeah.
Ceramics.
Yeah,
Ceramics?
because
No,
I don't
not
want to.
Harry Potter.
You know how many European call cooker? You know, like
can do
you're a
it.
cooker. I'm not a cooker. I'm a person. I'm not square either. Potter, yeah.
Potter.
I'm not going to go into this ceramics
Potter.
conversation.
Yeah, you can adore them. Put your green curry in a lovely plate, and that's work. You don't have to like try to figure with your basil leaf or the chilies that you put in, because it should be part of the curry. It should not be a garnish. Thai food, there's no garnish. Basically, there's no garnish. So why try? Sorry. So why don't you choose the plate that can emphasize what you want to do, rather than using the tweezer, basically. And like put things that you can't eat, put things that doesn't go together but look nice on the plate. Like you taste all the elements together and it's like, oh, it doesn't work. Maybe I try like there and see whether it's work separately.
But I don't
It
see
doesn't
where
work
this
either.
goes with Thai food. I mean, is this a specific problem for Thai food?
Yeah, it's problem now. Right?
In what way?
It's for all cuisine.
It's for all cuisine, but especially for Thai, because
Because what?
if I make you a really nice, yummy, delicious, spicy soup, I want you to have it with other things. I want you to have it with the salad, with the curry, with the stir fry, with the relish, with the accompaniment, with the rice. I don't want to serve you just the soup by
No.
itself.
Sure.
But Italians, if you eat Italian, if you're born in Italian family, the best meal is when the nonna,
No.
yeah,
See?
put everything together at the same time on the freeing table. It's not one by one dishes here.
Right.
Like when you can just like grab that, oh my God, that's too creamy. I'm gonna go to the salad with the anchovies, and then I'm gonna go back something tangy and sours, and I have too much sour already, so like I'm gonna go back to something creamy with the pasta and whatever.
What
and
if you-
drink more red.
What if you put it all on one plate? Like little squirts.
And some mayonnaise.
And microgreens.
It's the balance and moderations.
Right.
Sorry, I'm going to ask, sorry, Bo, do you ever enjoy dinners where the chef is like, right, I'm going to present you with 20 little bites, one after another?
I did. If they do it properly, I did. If like I don't mind the cuisine, but then you sit there and you know whether they do it properly or they just like try to make the list. Yeah, as simple as that.
So I'm going to sum up what have been said, right? So
Oh,
in this
good. I'm glad.
sorry,
Very good.
Sorry, I'm
I don't
taking
even
the
have to
position.
pay you.
like in this era of social media, like Andy Warhol had once said, everyone will be famous for 15 minutes, right? We have to admit that social media has brought us global connectivities, which used wisely can help us to do better and to share ideas with virtual strangers. But I guess the downside of it is that we cannot separate anymore what is fantasy and what is reality. Really, sometimes we so drown into this fantasy of Facebook, Instagram, and other kind of social media. We don't know anymore what is it that we love, why we are cooking, or just trying to be like someone else is our passion, right? So we, as chef, I think what we could do is that we could spend less time out of social media world, be less dependent on social media, right? So we could spend more time thinking about what is food, why we are cooking, what we are doing, and maybe we could share with others in a thoughtful, useful way, and I hope one day in a less materialistic way. And we have to remember that appearance is not everything, right?
Right. So are you saying that people are becoming chefs are becoming a little bit too obsessed or caring too much about social media?
We just live in materialistic world, and we as chef, what I said is like what we could do. So to spend less time doing that, right? So
I guess, yes. I mean, the real question with all you leading chefs here is, do you think about, when you're creating a dish, do you actually think about how it's going to look in photos?
Sometimes.
I don't think there's been a chef in the last.
Dylan here.
I don't think there's been a chef in the last 150 years that hasn't thought about how the dishes will look for the
No.
plate.
I
Yeah,
guess
you're right.
No, I mean on
It's
Twitter
only
and
the last
Instagram.
20 or 30 years that people care so much about it because it's pushed so far out into the sphere of things.
Sure.
So I don't think it's a new thing for chefs to be vain and
No.
to think that their food looks the best. I mean, the French went through it 60, 70 years ago with their avant-garde culture and massive plates and small food.
Nouvelle cuisine.
We go through changes in terms of how the aesthetics of food looks. But I think what's missing these days is that how food tastes.
Right.
Most food doesn't taste.
Food is about taste, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Most food doesn't taste how it looks these days.
No.
I mean, this is something that I just need to get off my chest. The tomahawk steak is a ribeye with a big fucking bone that you pay extra for.
Right.
That's all.
I think we're getting off the Thai food topic here.
No,
I'm sure
you
you
can
can
serve
find
it with
many
Jim
Thai
Jiao.
restaurants now that have to have a tomahawk.
I haven't seen a Thai tomahawk.
No, but my point is this: that like the tomahawk like took over Bangkok in like I don't know, about 4 years ago. Certain
Thanks to
restaurants.
Tim's.
Yeah, and all of a sudden you have people buying 3,500 baht steaks, and half of the weight you're just paying for a bone so that you can take a picture of it. And that is really, really stupid.
Maybe you have a Labrador at home. That will work.
Just my tomahawk example. That's all.
It's a good point.
I'm very upset about
There's
it.
there's
I hate
someone
that.
there for the activity.
But that's sort of true. People pay for tomahawk. People doesn't pay or don't feel like they have to pay for a freshly squeezed coconut or hand pound curry.
Sure.
Well,
Like, sorry.
no, go on. Okay,
I
so
should not
we
go
are
on.
going to have questions in a minute. Yeah, all right. Okay, if you've got some point about this particular topic.
I do. It just sounds like what hasn't been distinguished yet is how marketing has been attached to the chef.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you tell that woman that Tony?
Kind of.
So the question was, how has marketing been attached to the chef?
Sorry,
Too much.
Can I take that? Like,
Yes, too much. Yes.
Take it.
I would add to my list of like tick box criteria for a restaurant to get onto the big lists or win awards is make sure you have a chef whose name everyone knows and is at the front of your restaurant. You know, the restaurant that has got no name chef attached to it, I don't think that exists in any Michelin list at all or whatever other list it might be. And again, people can exploit that, and it doesn't matter how good your chef is, so long as his name's at the top of the press release. It's very rare now that we'll get a press release come to the BK office which doesn't want to mention its chef and who he is and his background and why he's great.
She.
Or she.
Rather.
She. Excuse me.
You're surrounded by.
Excuse me.
It's okay, like really. I think it's. I think the marketing step in the, in the old days, before Michelin, before the best list, if you try to find where to eat in Bangkok, you ask your Bangkok friends.
Yeah.
You ask your foodie Bangkok friends who are the real foodies. And then it's like, it's mouth to mouth. This is mouth to mouth?
Yeah, well,
Word of mouth.
Word of mouth.
Sorry.
I like mouth to mouth better.
Dylan have been seeing that my English been worse. Anyway, so it's word of mouth. You ask. And then you ask people who you believe.
right.
You ask your friends, you ask your relative, you ask Jared if he in town for 10 years already. You ask Oli because he's the editor of the magazines. Oli can tell you the truth of the records.
Off the record.
Sorry. But then you ask an old marketing paradigms. People trust friends and family. If you know someone who live in Bangkok, you go ask them. You don't believe in the social media. You don't believe in the list. You don't believe in anything because it's not happening yet.
No.
Then that is really good restaurant that you land in. This day, totally different with the marketing. It's about who knows who got no money, who can fly people in, who can pay their accommodations and their tickets, just like Jared said at the beginning of the conversations. So that's scary because marketing in itself is become a force.
Yeah, can I build on that for 1 second? Like when people used to come to Bangkok, eaters. I don't like the word foodie; it rubs me the wrong way. Eaters, lovers of food. When they would come, you would. And I used to do this for my job. I was a food journalist. You would ask people who were knowledgeable about that subject where they should eat, and you could ask 10 different people, and you would get 30 different answers. And from that information, then you would go and you would eat in different restaurants. And some of them were on the street, some of them were shop houses, some of them were fancy, maybe an Indian restaurant in a hotel, whatever. But it was a wide spectrum of dining experiences. And now that we just love lists so much, what I've found is, and I also think it's kind of a discredit to the food scene here, is that people coming from Hong Kong or Singapore or Los Angeles or Paris look at Michelin and they look at San Pellegrino and they go to like the 4 same restaurants every time.
Right.
I'm in the restaurant business. Everyone says, hey, can you get me a reservation at, and I'm like, oh, I have to do this again. And I don't think that's the way that we have enjoyed food or the restaurant industry for the last, I don't know, let's say 75 years. We used to get information from people. Now we get information from water companies who make lists. And I'm serious, I'm not joking, and I don't think it's a good thing.
Right, I think that... Right, but to get back to the specific issue of Thai food and what has happened to Thai cuisine in the last few years because of the rise of international attention, awards, Michelin, celebrity culture.
The format has
let's
changed.
say it wasn't a driver 10 years ago. There was nothing, so people had to rely more on word of mouth or asking Ollie or asking
journalism,
you.
yeah. I mean.
So these days, I suppose, we're talking about the growing power of lists and guides.
And tastemakers.
And this has not been the case in Thailand, whereas it has always been the case in Japan and places like that. So I think that's a new thing, and that's why I was curious also about BK Magazine and whether you feel you've got much more influence these days than you did, say, 10 years ago or 5 years ago, you know.
Okay, well,
I mean, in terms of the guides, the reviews and...
I certainly wouldn't say we have more influence than we did 5 or 10 years ago because media's been so democratized. You know, it used to be a case that every Friday you had to pick up your copy of BK from Starbucks or wherever else it may be. That culture's disappeared. for better or worse, you know, we still put out. In fact, we do more news now than we ever did before. I would say though that our restaurant coverage, 80-90% of it is news. It's not a review. It's not an endorsement. We're quite a universal, democratic city living magazine that just wants to say, here's something that's opened, here's what it does, here's how much it would cost you. It contains neither high criticism nor high praise. So our role in the city is just to predominantly expose things. Maybe 5-6 times a month we'll actually do a piece of criticism where we are, you know, either championing a place or the opposite.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to open the floor to questions now, and please identify yourself and if you want to ask it specifically or else to the whole panel.
Oh, okay. I'm Asari from Khao English. So this is, my questions will be for the whole panel, anyone who wants to answer. You guys, the chefs, you guys are creating, you know, new experimental Thai dishes. And do you think, you know, accusations that, oh, maybe like these new dishes are like the death of Thai cuisine, do you think this comes from like a foreign standpoints that perhaps wants to see a stagnant version of Thai cuisine that's perhaps cheaper, and that's maybe like influenced by more like a romantic view of Thai cuisine, like maybe they want it to be nostalgic and cheaper and on the street?
Should I answer that?
Go for it.
Of course, and then anyone else who would like to.
I taught at the Nakarin Road University, and then I teach like culinary arts, Western and Eastern, which I not agree in the names, but I can't do anything. And then at the end of the semester, I bring in 50 kids into our kitchens to learn how to do Thai food. Dylan hated it because he can't deal with 50 people in the kitchens. And the kitchen is like, it's not like built for 50 people. We just want to share our view. So we bring them in, and then I make them pile the curry from start to finish. When I make them pile the curry from start to finish, I mean that you have to peel the garlic, the shallots, the lemongrass, the galangas. You have to peel every freaking things. You have to de-seed the chili. I make them pile it. And I separate it in groups, like 4, 5, 6 groups, depends on the years. The groups that doesn't have to pile it yet will sit down in like by the swimming pool, reading our menus. Back then, we still have a la carte. So the curry will go like 500, 600 baht per curry. And it's like a darn to me. Why your curry is so freaking expensive? I just like, wait until you pound it. And then I make everybody pound the curry, make the coconut cream freshly from the coconut itself. It doesn't come in a square box, rectangular box, or round can. It's like coconut. You have to crack it, shredded it, squeeze it with the warm water. At the end of the day, I sit them down. And it's like, do you still think 500, 600, 800 baht worth of curry is too expensive? And it's like, if you have a restaurant and you have to do all this by yourself, how much you're gonna charge for it? And they, being a millennial, tell me, fucking 1,000 baht, mate. I'm married to the Aussie, so like, sorry for my slang. Like, if people see where it's come from, if people see how hard work we have to put in to make a bowl of curry for anyone, and on the top of that, I be like calling everybody for a garlic that is organic. Shallot that is organic. Chili, I make sure it's organic. Chili, shrimp paste. Everything's like I try to make it as organic as possible. Why? Because as a chef, I have a duty to make sure when you eat my food or anybody food up here, you doesn't have a chemical residues in your vegetables.
Thanks.
You have to have good food. You shouldn't have cancer like in 20-year time because you are a regular customer of Bola.
Right, so I think
How bad would that be? Like really?
Strike that from the record.
this also applies to a lot of other cuisines, except maybe your kind of Thai food is extremely labour intensive, more than maybe in other
Thai food
cuisine
should
cultures.
be labor intensive.
But
if it's not labor intensive,
people see
there's
street
much-
food as well, which is also, you see the old lady cracking the coconut, or you see them peeling their, doing the...
I see them going to CP Fresh Mart and like buying that stuff with stripes on it already, like it's already been grilled. I hate to be cynical, but like really most of it is kind of like that.
I mean, are they getting their curry paste out of the packet? Are they using canned coconut milk, are they? Yeah. I guess.
Not everyone, but I mean, I think I understand what you were sort of getting at in terms of like the romanticization of street food and people either wanting it to be cheap or sort of take this kind of fine dining route. It's one or the other, right?
Yeah.
I think there's room for all of that. But I think, like Bo said, it's an incredible discredit to Thai cuisine to think that it ought to be cheap.
Right.
Because it's one of the most difficult things to cook, and it's certainly the most laborious kind of food that I've ever cooked. It takes so long, and it takes so much effort, and this idea that it should be inexpensive is dated. I mean, it was inexpensive because Thailand was inexpensive, but Thailand is no longer inexpensive, so the food should not be cheap.
Yes, but surely that's why there's an element of benefit from celebrity chef culture,
Sure.
Michelin, San Pellegrino, whatever.
I guess.
It makes the world take things more seriously. It's what
I guess
It
so.
should not be overpriced either if you serve canned coconut cream.
Yeah, that can be cheap.
Like, it's sad that people can't tell the difference between fresh creams and coconut creams anymore. It's sad. It's sad that people can't tell the difference between freshly powdered curry and a normal curry.
One question for Kun Bo. So you reach what I think is like one of the top rungs of celebrity chefdom, which is being on Netflix's Chef's Table. How has being on Chef's Table changed your restaurant life?
Well, Chef Table is
It's fine? That's fine.
with a curve. The best thing about us is like we are so shit with our PR. We haven't hired anyone to do our PR properly. I haven't been on the Instagrams or Facebook or any social media platform properly that I should have been.
Doesn't even answer emails.
I don't answer
she's
my
very
email.
bad at answering
Darren
emails.
emailed me and I replied like 14 days later. Because I don't believe in the marketing. I don't believe in the PR. I don't believe in any bullshit, of the newer marketings or this age marketings. I'm surprised that I still in the best 50 list. I'm surprised that I still in the Michelin guide because, as Jared suggests, I have been making harsh comments about it, especially Michelin in Thailand. I know Michelin in Asia is basically FUCK, if I spell it correctly, anywhere in Asia. Tokyo, Malaysia, Singapore, Macau, Hong Kong. It's all FUCK. It is.
I think the
I'm sorry, it is.
I think the problem with Michelin in Asia, I mean, if you want to go down that road, is there's just no clear criteria for what a good Michelin
They're
restaurant
struggling
is.
to make money. They're struggling because
It's a for-profit enterprise. I mean, it used to be a thing where like you would go, it was a guide that you were intended to drive your car and eat somewhere that was good in the French countryside and then sleep there.
Exactly.
Now it's not that.
It's
Well,
not.
yeah.
And
Off the records, turn off your all electronics device.
can I
They're
add,
struggling and they need money. And they only can get money in Asia. Tokyo, Hong Kong, Singapore, Bangkok. Phang and Chiang Mai this year. Congratulations.
Can I add something into like when we do Asian food? I'm not cooking Thai food, right? When we do Asian food, why can't it be expensive? I think I'm from a different point of view here. Of course, we have to use best ingredients. I mean, if we are a cook, that's naturally we have to use like best ingredients. But there's something that we forget here. I've been working in food and beverage industry for so long, and for all my life, I feel like I have been a slave. I don't have enough day off, right? So here, what we do is that you have day off, like government job, right? So that added up to the cost, and this is like why Asian food sometimes could be more expensive, because why? Food and beverage people have to be slave. We want a life like everyone else. So this added up to the cost of the restaurant I'm working in. So this is from the different perspective, right? Besides the best ingredients.
I see.
Effort, yeah.
Chef Alm, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No.
Okay.
Let's go for the next
So
question.
next question, please. She agrees with everyone.
Hi, I'm probably a bit of an outlier here. My industry is healthcare, and I have been, my first trip to Bangkok was in 1975. And I lived here in the 1990s, and I've been back here for the last 15 years. And there are a number of street foods that are no longer available on the sidewalks. And so I'm thinking, as I look at my industry, which is healthcare, and how healthcare in Thailand is promoted and viewed around the world, I see very many similarities with what you've been talking about with food. And I have two questions. One question is, what is the role of TAT, the Tourism Authority of Thailand, and I see a few sort of, smiles and grimaces. But if you have done some work with San Pellegrino or Evian or Michelin or whatever, TAT will take that information and will promote it.
Sure.
And will maybe promote it to your advantage or not. That's number one. And number two, as we know, a number of trends in global food culture and food tourism is the slow food movement. So what's going on, because you're talking about your restaurants and you're talking about Instagram and all that kind of stuff, but in reality what we need to talk about is the promotion of Thai food and the relationship of authentic Thai food to the slow movement and other global world trends that are happening. So I would like somebody to address those two things.
Okay. Well, I can
This
see
is going to be so bad. Really, really.
Chef Som's raring to go.
I don't know what they're doing though, but one day I was contacted by someone about like launching a book by TAT, right? They were so much interested in me, right? And once they know my age, I'm 48. They said I'm too old.
Oh.
How are you? 48, and I'm too old, right? So I cannot do anything anymore because
Too old for what?
TAT, right?
Too old for what? To be too old for what?
So to answer to your question, I don't know anymore. I don't care what they do, but
have to ask
I
TAT.
cannot be a part of it because I'm too old. I mean,
Does that answer your question?
you cannot see from my face, right? That I'm 48, right?
She looked like 28. Like
No.
really.
So what's the point of you're talking about it when you can't affect
No.
much of what's going on?
Right. I cannot be a part of it. I'm too old.
Well, I wouldn't take that seriously.
I think most people in this room know.
And I'm not like, I never talk about this in public, right? But since you raised the question, so I really don't know what they're doing.
High five.
The Tourism Authority of Thailand paid 150 million baht for the Michelin Guide to cover Bangkok. Yeah,
For 5 years.
for 5 years.
For 5 years. And they have to go to
Yes.
as many regions as they can.
It's not really a secret, I
It's
don't
not.
think.
It's
No.
not like.
I never knew this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Le Normandy for
I'm not saying that. Look, what I'm.
You know what a secret is? I'm sorry, too close to the mic.
It's not. It's not. Like I said before, I don't want to discredit any of the restaurants that are on that list. You guys have wonderful restaurants, but it's. But if you ask about TAT, this was their mechanism to promote restaurants in Thailand, which was to bring in a very European system of evaluating restaurants, which doesn't belong here because our restaurants are different. You know, when I go to a restaurant and they have a Michelin star in Hong Kong and you have to pay for napkins, I'm like, what the hell is this? This doesn't make any sense. And so it's, you know, it's like a square peg, round hole kind of situation, I think, with
So what's the alternative to TAT?
it's just, what's good? Like, no, I mean, really, I really believe that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I know.
TAT?
I think the real alternative to these lists and to these guides is food journalism, but no one pays for journalism anymore. Sorry.
All right. So second.
Another high five for you. Like you need it. Like really.
Second
no,
question.
I mean, yeah. People should read food writers because they know what they're talking about. And, you know, sadly,
Some
I used to
do.
be one of those people, and now I have to cook food and go to
Anyone
restaurants
from TAT is here? Before I say anything.
I think they'd be too scared to put their hand up if they were.
We did put together a really good things in 2018, I believe. Free food forums. Last year, ใช่ไหม? 18. And then we talk about sustainability. We talk about indigenous. We talk about waste in hospitality world. You should enjoy your food, but you should look at these three things basically: sustainability, indigenous, as well as waste. We put so many letters through TAT with connections that we got. They said like, oh my God, if you want to do this, you have to go to training sessions. So we didn't have any fund from TAT. They didn't get it. Stockholm got Zero Waste Day. In Stockholm, Zero Waste Festival, or Food Festival. London Food Festival got Zero Waste Day. Thailand, I'm sorry if you're from TAT, you are so fucking behind.
There's plastic bottles. Sorry.
I'm drinking now, and
Yeah.
Dylan will be proud of me saying that. We didn't get any. We're so lucky that we have feedback, we have TCEP behind us putting in the money. I never know asking for the money for a good cause is this freaking hard. Last year, so we're not going to do it this year for sure. Next year maybe, if I'm crazy enough. But the truth is, TAT, they worry about other things. And everything is interconnected. Well, do you have the result of your election yet? If you eligible to vote? Because I don't. As simple as that.
Now, how about there was a question about slow food and getting back to you mentioned yourself, Bo, about sourcing organics, and I know all of you have expressed your commitment to that kind of thing. Yeah, so I guess slow food is seen as a sort of European thing. I don't know if we're, and
We try.
in fact, Thai food is actually known as almost sort of original fast food when you look at street food, what they're making within like 15 seconds on the street.
I know. I have tried. I have reached out to first slow food persons who try to make slow food happen in Bangkok, which is PA Anothai from the Anothai farming. Do you know what is?
You got a chapter, no?
No, I have a chapter, but it's behind her. I've been like researching before. You know PA from Anothai place? She got a place in Ratchaburi, and she like the first one who registered slow food Bangkok talents with slow food with at Andre Puccini's back in Bra in Italy. And then I know slow food through my master degree, when I don't understand about gardening. My lecturer, like, you have to grow your own tomatoes and you will like understand how luscious it is. And it's like, wait a minute, I'm here to learn about cultures, gastronomies, and blah, 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 economy, geographies that link to gastronomy. I'm not into the garden at all, but she's like maybe 20 years before me. So she get like the holistics of everything. And by that time, I don't have experience that I should have by now. And I just like, why you do gardening? Like, I want to cook, I want to be a chef. I want to be a celebrity chef, if that definition works, back then. And it's like, gardening, you talk about your swim in the mornings and do the gardens, like, and tomatoes gardens in the afternoon. It's like, what is that? And then I realized, oh my God, if you don't do your gardens, if you don't have your organic farms, what are you gonna like really cook with? Like really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So that like really hit me. But then it's like, it's everything. Suddenly, it's back to the roots. Suddenly, it's back to the ingredients. Suddenly, it's back to who farm things for us. Jared have a farm in Italy, who got procedure in slow food. And she talked about slow food, and that is the first time I heard about slow food.
Mm-hmm.
So when I spent my time in London, I went to all the slow food festival that I can with my money allow, because like, you work whatever hours, but you all still got this money. And then suddenly your friends is like, why don't we go to that Michelin restaurant? See what they're doing. And it's like, oh my God, I have 20p in my pocket with a full oyster card, so that I can go to work. But slow food is different. In Thailand, it's also different as well.
How about the editor's view of that? And BK Magazine has covered sort of this kind of issue.
All right, yeah. I mean, well, it comes back to that trend of which restaurants are really in the public eye and which restaurants are succeeding. If we want to come back to the original premise of tonight's conversation about our awards damaging Thai culinary traditions, well, I mean, what this once more is a question of no, it's not, because slow food, putting the time into growing ingredients correctly, into pounding the pastes correctly, whatever else it may be, these things are actually sustaining Thai culinary traditions. It's doing it properly. And the restaurants that do this are the ones which gain the awards and gain the recognition. And those are the ones which right now, around the world, people are championing in Thailand. I want to add something to the TAT debate that was happening
Yes,
a
please.
minute ago, because I think there's a lot of valid points that got raised, but one thing that got ignored was that the TAT has actually succeeded in what it wanted to do, which was to promote Thailand not just as a street food destination,
Right.
not just as a cheap destination, but a destination which exists on the global international culinary foodie jet set map of the world. And now, well, we had Asia's 50 Best was here. I can't remember, it was maybe 2 or 3 years.
2 years, I think, yeah.
We've got as many restaurants in that list as exist in Tokyo.
We've had 4 years
Hong Kong.
running.
Which
or
is not
I think
which is
4
not
years-
appropriate, by the
4
way.
years running.
4 years running for the number one in
Asia's
in
50
Asia, but they actually held the awards here for 2 years in a row. So these things have turned Bangkok into a global culinary capital.
So I don't disagree with you, but I think the question is, are we better off for it?
Are we better for it?
And is the cuisine better off for it? And I can't really say that it is or it isn't because I don't really know.
No, I that's when we talk about these restaurants, you're talking like in a list of 50 restaurants. You're talking about 5 or 10 restaurants in Bangkok. This is not the food scene as a whole.
Yeah.
I would say
This is not representative of the
Yeah, I
food scene in
understand.
Bangkok.
It gives a vast number of restaurants
Sure.
certain marketing touch points to latch onto. And now if they follow through with those marketing touch points and they are, going to those extra lengths for the ingredients, for the farming, doing things properly, well then maybe it is positive.
Yeah.
But that's a very hard thing to judge. There's lots who would just say.
Right. Well, I think you have to ask yourself, what is the criteria for being a foodie capital or a foodie centre? I don't think it's just having more than 10 Michelin-starred restaurants. I think it's part of that whole, you've seen how it's lifted up the middle to lower middle, what you call grades or categories of Thai food as well, right? So you've got a lot of funky, creative, cheaper restaurants. Yes, please, can you go to the microphone? Sorry, can you go to the microphone? So, well, we're recording it, so yeah. Actually, that's why it helps if you wouldn't mind speaking in the microphone. Sorry about that.
No, I was just interested in what Oliver had to say.
Can you identify yourself?
Oh, hello, I'm Samantha, and
Hi, Samantha.
Just what Oliver had to say. I thought it was interesting, and yes, a lot of chefs and people think that obviously Michelin coming here, Asia's 50 Best, a big pain in the ass. In terms of thinking of corruption and people wanting to commercialize their business. But actually, I deal with a lot of foodies or supposed foodies every day, and I've seen the difference. Their interest in the culinary scene is amazing. Like, it's really cool how enthusiastic and passionate people are becoming about not just Thai food, but food in general. And it's really, people are giving their heart and their invested interest to improve as well the quality of food. And people are actually looking at organic and being more natural and local, and this is cool. I actually think that's a great thing. So I think flipping two sides of the coin, as Oliver said, I think it was a good point, that was all.
And you're saying TAT was right?
Absolutely not. I'm saying there's two sides, with such as everything. Yeah.
I'm also not saying TAT was right. I'm just saying I think that they succeeded in their objective.
Right.
Yeah, they did. Absolutely. I mean,
Well, compared to like Manila or Indonesia,
yeah, Jakarta or Manila. I mean,
Exactly.
yeah.
because I got a sort of TAT equal to in Singapore, no, in Indonesia, and they asked me like, why Thai food so popular? I can't push the Indonesian food.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think TAT doing the right thing, but they need a new directions to go for. And then TAT equal of in Jakarta or Manila, they have to work harder as well.
And maybe new direction is that all people can be included, right?
I think the most
Talk about this. We can do an interview about that on the record.
I think the most important thing that you sort of touched upon, Bo, that is that people should pay a lot less attention to chefs and a lot more attention to farmers. Because really what we do is we take stuff from a farm and we cook it. But so much focus is on chefs and so little attention is paid to how the pigs were raised, how the vegetables were grown, and I hope that educated consumers will start thinking less about chefs, less about us, and more about people who actually produce the food. Because that's really, really, really important.
Right. That's the core about everything, about cooking. Really.
80% ingredients, 20% chef. We just put things together. Without them, we can't put things together.
Right. I rather think it's heading a little bit more the other way at this point in Thailand because there's more focus on chefs now than there ever was some years ago. People knowing the names of chefs at top restaurants, you never had that 15 years ago. But I would like to, maybe we don't have others questions, I'd like to just have one last question before we finish, and that is a question for the girls, which is, we've got, I'm also excited because we almost never have a female-dominated panel, and without being too sort of out there as, it wasn't about girl power, but it was just interesting when I was going through some of the most interesting chefs in Bangkok. I realised there was a lot of them are women, and this has been a big change in Thai cuisine as well in the last 10 years. Is the rise of women chefs in the higher end. We've all seen the old grandma at the street food stall, and I'm still convinced women are the best chefs in Thailand because I've seen them running their street stalls. But I'd like to ask, all of you, including the men, whether you think, is it still a struggle for women to make it in the high-end restaurant scene in Thailand, or has it actually become a plus in terms of marketing or attracting customers? And I'd like to start with Chef because she was interviewed for an article we ran in my magazine, Nikkei, and you were very articulate and strong about that, and told a very funny story about when you got your Michelin star.
Actually, I have to say, long time ago in Asian or especially in Thailand, we do not accept about women to be the leader or the boss of anything in the world. Or that I told you in Asian, right? But now the world is changed because now the women has the power and can be the leader, not only the men, and I think all the women want to show up the world that they have they can be the leader. Anything. It's not only in the marketing, but in the real life, right? And I am the one who be disappointed with my chef before. When I work in commit in the Mandarin Oriental Bangkok, there has some chef, I have to say European chef, European guy, come to talk to me. Why you learn so hard? Why you have to work so hard? I said, I want to be a chef someday. I can be the chef. He said, no, you can't because you be a girl. Oh my God, this one is hurt me because I learn about cooking, I learn about cuisine, and I want to be a chef. 20 years ago, no man do not agree with the girl to be a leader, but now we showed up that we can do, and we're gonna do for the next step. We do not stop.
Bravo. Chef Song, Bo, do you have any?
I don't really want to say this because I think if we're still talking about being male or female, what else can we do, right? I think we need something new here. At the end, we are people, right? So why we are still living? Why can't we just make this place a livable place for everyone, and maybe better place for our next generations, right? So I guess by believing, stop believing in this gender thing. I really believe it's a good start. I really do hope that people stop believing about this gender thing, really.
About gender?
This gender thing.
Right.
I think we should stop thinking about being male or female.
Right.
You see, Mel, lower my mic. I work in the Como with the Met when it's half science. No customers. I work freaking hard every day to make my perfect dressings for the oysters and blah, blah, blah. My model is Amanda Gill, 29 years old.
She's great.
Australian. Whatever she cook as a Thai, I think it's delicious, it's tasty, it's not bland, it's not like you have to put more salt, you have to put more chilies or sugar. I grew up with that. I spent a year and a bit with her. And like, oh my God, if someone can be an executive chef in Bangkok at 29 years old, being a girl, I can be fucking that as well.
Right.
I spent a year and a half with her. She teach me everything that she knows. I learned so much from her. Amanda Gill, you have to remember that names. Amanda Gill. I tell her after a year and a half, like, chef, I have to do every section. I done the appetizer, I done the soup, I done the hot appetizer as well, I done the beef, I done the fish, and you have to teach me so much because Amanda working with Dan Moran, that is another name that you have to remember, because if you want to invest, it's Dan Moran. I learned so much for them. And then I tell Amanda, I've been spending with her for like a year and a bit. And I'm like, Amanda, I want to go to Europe. Can you connect me to Muggers in Spain? Can you connect me to like people in Italy or France or whatever? And Amanda said like, Bo, stop it right there. You go to London with David Thompson. London with David Thompson, who have a same-sex partners, which is fine. I love it. It's like, why I want to do Thai? I want to do like Mughalish thing, you know, like all the like crazy different thing in Mughalish.
You're getting too deep. You're getting down the rabbit hole.
Okay, so Jared, do you have anything you'd like to say on it, or?
And then Amanda's like, no. I'm writing a letter for your visa for a UK embassy. If you want to go to Europe, work with David. I'm doing my master's degree with Adelaide universities on Master of Arts in Gastronomy. That what is like, it sound like back then. And it's like, fine, I go to London then, I learn Thai food. But then I learned Thai food because I realized that 50 of people in the Met Bangkok back then, which is like 2003, I can't get a red curry or the green curry out of them. No shallot, no garlic, no chili, no whatever. And I can't get a pot of curry out of 50 of them because I do the, I don't know, qualitative, like, you know, the N and the L, qualitative.
But
yeah, research approach.
I think we're getting away from the man-woman thing.
Yeah, but then It's Amanda,
We're
who is the executive chef, who actually writes me a letter to the embassy, like, I'm the chef de party. By then, I'm like committee. I peel the shallot. I peel the fucking potatoes every fucking day. I wash the rocket because no one want to wash the rotten rocket in the kitchens. And Amanda write me a visa, a letter to the embassy, like, this person can be a chef de party in London. You need a high chef's skill in London. And I don't know what she wrote, but I get my visa. My mom pray otherwise, like, oh my God, Bo not going to London, Bo not going to London, Bo not going to London. I ended there. And I love it there. And then it doesn't matter whether you're male or female, whether you are homosexuals, whether you're bisexuals, it doesn't freaking matter. Or fucking matter.
Okay, great. Thank you. On that happy
It
note.
doesn't matter.
Fine.
Because if you have
Okay.
a will to do it, if you have the knowledge to do it, if you have enough background.
Yes, it doesn't matter. Yay.
Yeah,
And you
I think we're saying that for some women,
Like really, my Amanda, she fucked the
Yeah.
boys and the girls if she can. My David Thompson, who is my mentor.
thanks. I
he
think
probably fucked the man.
we're going to give someone else a chance now, but I do think
It
that
doesn't matter.
some
Men or
women
girls.
obviously face some issues in the kitchen.
It's
Oliver, would you
work.
like to have a final
It doesn't
say?
matter.
Yep,
Okay.
thank
It's
you.
about the flavor profile.
I guess I would just bring this back to.
Bring it back.
I'll bring this back to the topic of awards, and I know that one award that can sometimes be quite contentious, but can maybe be the making of careers as well, is the Asia's Best Female Chefs Award.
Right.
BK, our own top tables, we don't have anything like that. What we do is Best Thai Restaurant of the Year award, which we started 2 years ago, and 2 years in a row it's only gone to restaurants which are headed by female chefs. So there's been no need to have an award that says, they're somehow special, or they're not going to get the recognition unless we
Right.
create.
You're just saying that the playing field's
The playing
completely
field.
level.
I think it's even, I was discussing.
Tipped?
No, I was discussing this with my wife when we were walking to get a motorcycle here. I can think of, off the top of my head, 6 or 7 female chefs absolutely at the top of their game in Bangkok, who I'm friends with, I have a huge amount of respect for. I can think of as many female chefs who are helming restaurants as males, and I think that's very unusual. I think we're very lucky because of it. When I look at you guys and Garima, and I just have so much respect for women in the kitchen. But if you look at Thailand, historically, like,
It's always female.
it's always women in the kitchen, yeah? Like, it's not a French brigade system with the guy with the
No,
mustache.
they just
yelling at
haven't been
everyone.
helming the top level restaurants.
It's different, culturally, really
Yeah,
quite different.
That's true.
Okay.
So if you look at the court cuisine, it's always female.
Yes.
Right.
So-
If you look at the full season before it's turned Anantala, in Rasadamli Road, it's always females. I have P Ann, P Ann there?
Right.
P Ann there. P Ann is transgender, and P Ann is the only transgender in the kitchen. The rest of the kitchen have to be female employed. They don't employ men.
Right.
And I
Okay.
love it.
Thank you. Because we're actually finishing now, I'd like to bring this to a close and say thanks to every one of our fantastic panelists. Thank you very much. And do take a note of the restaurants that these chefs here, we're just giving you guys a plug. They're all very popular, but
Get a booking.
you can't get it.
Talk to Dylan over there.
We only open for booking in August, right?
Anyway, I thoroughly
really hate
recommend
that. I really
that you give it a go, and also read BK magazine. Thank you very much.
Hey guys.